manages to pass through a snowbank to come here. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us pray for justice, for peace. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So the last class, you had that on the internet, and you saw the state, and now the state is the reality, and the global reality. In fact, the state is made with people. The first reality of the state is the citizen. Sometimes we forget that. But the state must use some means to allow people to live in peace and in justice. And that means it is what we call a government, to govern. Those who have the power, or the one who has the power, to indicate to the people what is the common good. It is natural that every time we have 2 person, 3 person, 4 person, immediately, naturally, there is a leader. Remember when you were 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, and you played together? Someone has to run, no? To say 1, 2, 3, go. We need almost a leader or a referee to play together. So in the society, we need someone who is taking care of the common good, and that we call the government. Well, government has 3 meanings. The first meaning is the act of governing, the act itself of governing. It can be, we say, the constitution, the indication, the form of government. The constitution indicates the form of government. It can be also the persons in authority, the prime minister or the president or the king, that is, or those who are in the government. So the person. In fact, the word government is covering all those reality. But what is the central, the formula of any government? Authority. Authority. There is no possibility to live together without a principle of organization, a principle of coordination. Someone or some person or some persons indicate us. We have to, in a congregation, we have a superior. No, we have a provincial council, a superior. In a diocese, we have a bishop, we have a pastor in the parish. In a family, we have, depending on the culture, sometimes some culture is the father, we call patriarchal culture. In the other culture is the mother, matriarchal culture. In my country, Quebec, Canada, for a long time, it was always officially a patriarchal culture. The father was the leader, but in fact, it was the mother. It was the mother. Okay. So no society without government, no society without authority. So if you say society, immediately you need a president, you need an organization. That is a mean. The government is a mean. We need that. We need that. It's impossible to live together. Of course, if you take the bus, well, the leader is the driver. But if you live together permanently, you must have a principle of uniformity, a principle of coordination, someone who is able to install justice and peace, authority. So the problem is how the government obtained that authority. You remember as we studied the right. In every right we have a subject, we have a term, and we have a matter, something we have to exchange, and we have a title. So what is the title, the reason, the foundation of any government, or of a government? No? So that is the first question. Secondly, see how we should, those who are at the government should use their authority. How? The limit, if you want. The limit, the title. First we study the title. After that we study the limits. It's important in every country, in every congregation, in every club, a golf club. If you go to some golf club, but when you enter, there is a rule. You must not, you are not allowed to have gin, for example. No gin in that golf club. So there is a constitution, the limits. So the authority cannot go further those limits. So the foundation, the title or the foundation of the society, and the limit, or if you want, how the manner, how the leaders, the responsible, can exercise their authority. Or in a congregation, we have the constitution, you have the norms. In the church, you have the canon law. So we have some limit to the authority. The authority must not be arbitrary. It must respect some limits. So the problem is, what are the limits? And not every society has the same limits. We have all those who don't have, those who do not want any authority, and we call that anarchy. Is anarchist. And those who want absolute authority, total control, totalitarian state. And we have all between. So it depends on the manner they exercise their power, and that comes from the Constitution. So who is the recipient? No. But in a conventional society, we saw that there are we divide the society or state in two categories. Those who say society is natural, or state is natural, and those who say state and society is conventional. That means the will of man, artificial, from the will of man. So in a conventional society, the Hobbes and Rousseau, you remember, are the two great philosophers, Hobbes and Rousseau. So the source, the foundation of the state is the will of man. It is the will of the people. The people decide. It's a contract. They put their freedom in the hand of one person or a group of persons. We call the general will. The general will. So, of course, in that society, the power, the authority depend on the power we gave to the king, or we gave to the president, or those who were designed to be to run the government, or to be the leader of the community. Well, natural here, those who say the society is natural, so we have two natural society. We have the family. The family is a natural society. By right, it is the parents. And now, who is the first to lead? But depends on the culture. Some culture, they say is the father. Other culture is the mother. So the family. And the state, because for those who are on the natural interpretation of the source of the origin of the state, they say the state is natural. The state is based on natural law. Natural law. So if we speak about natural law, we speak about morality. We speak about also a legislator, eternal law. Here, the foundation is the will of man. The will of man. So the authority depends on the nature of the state. If the state is conventional, the authority depend on the will of the people. So the source of authority comes from the people. So if the people decide, for example, that abortion is good, then it is good, you know. But if we depend on nature, then the society and the government does not depend on the will of men, depend on nature and depend on the order of nature. So we have two different divisions. There was some in the history, we see government accept state based on nature, other are based on convention. Here, when did Hobbes and Rousseau live? In the 17th century. So that is very recent. The interpretation of the conventional foundation of the state is in the history, it is recent. In the past, the society was based on first coming from the family. And the family is a natural society. The state was a natural society. It was found on nature. Of course, there was leaders to interpret that, but the foundation was not coming from a man. For example, even for the pagan, in Rome, for example, in Athens, the presence of the gods were very, very important. They were the gods of the city, protecting the city. So the law of Rome, the law of Athens, finally was founded on the divinity of the gods. Is the reason why it was a political crime to be a Christian. To be a Christian in the time of the Roman was to deny the gods of the city. You know, that means that the right did not come from the emperor; it comes from the gods, from nature, the author of nature. You know, that idea is as old as human being existed, and the idea of convention is very recent. Very recent. It came with the Enlightenment, Illuminati. And that is Voltaire, Voltaire in France. Voltaire, Condorcet, Rousseau. In England we have Hobbes, and you have Hume, and you have Locke. Okay. So first interpretation we know in the history is the divine right of the kings. And that was very, very long in the history, the divine right of the king. The king is king by the will of God. But we see that in the Old Testament. You have a good example in King David. David. He was chosen, the prophet anointed him, and he became the king. They wanted to have a king, Saul, and they were king by the will of God. And they were anointed. Interesting. The king of France, since Clovis, up to recently, a revolution, they were anointed by the Bishop of Reims. Reims in France, where the king were. Reims means come from Remy. Remy, Saint Remy, the city of Saint Remy. He was the first bishop of Reims. It was the anointed, the king of Spain. All those kings were anointed. Why? Because they were king by the will of God. They were of divine right, and they were absolute right. In France, the king was absolute king. In England, he was not absolute king. Since 12th century, so the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta. The important chart, where the king defends the people against the Lord. The history of Robin Hood and the black and the bad Prince John, you know, all that kind of legend and history is at the time of the Magna Carta. The reason why in England the king is king by constitution. And he is in link with the government. He's not totally independent. He is not the government. He's reigning, but he's not governing. is protecting the people. That is historical, is the way, is the reason, probably why they continue to be attached to the king. It's interesting to see that a great country like England, North Carolina is a great country, is still a kingdom, a monarchy. Hey, a monarchy. Spain is a monarchy. Denmark, Holland, Belgium, Sweden, Norway, many monarchy, and they have democracy at the same time. And need democracy and monarchy, don't oppose necessary. It is a mode of government, a mode of government. Okay, so in that case, God chose the king. Well, in the Old Testament, he chose directly through a prophet. Well, now with the king of France or the Orthodox king, they were chosen from some event. For example, they won the war, or they were very bright, or they were chosen by the other. For example, in Germany, up to the 19th century, there was no kingdom of Germany, and there were many principalities. Germany, the same in Italy. Italy was not one country. Italy was a series of little principalities fighting one against the other. For example, if you go to Assisi, Assisi is 7 miles from Perugia. When you are in Assisi, you see Perugia, and there were two city enemies. One was the emperor on the side of the emperor of Germany. The other was on the side of the Pope. And they fought. Until St. Francis, he fought against the Pope. He was on the side of Assisi, and he was taken a prisoner, put into a dungeon for 1 year. He was in the dungeon, and when he went out, he was sick, but he was converted and changed. So the king is, but he is by right, divine right, is the reason why the Christian king, Charlemagne, on the first, the Christmas 800, Christmas 800, Charlemagne asked the Pope to anoint him. He was anointed by the Pope. And after that, the king was anointed by the Pope. It was not only a simple right, it was a political and social reason for that. They recognize the authority of God, expressed through the Pope. Because they were Christian, you know. So the Pope put the crown on the head, put the oil. So in the name of God, he made that man the king of, and the king of France, the king of Spain, etc. You know, Charlemagne was crowned the emperor of those countries, France, Germany, Lotharingia, all that was under his command, by the will of God. The other theory is the theory proposed by Saint Robert Bellarmine. There is two Jesuits who in the 16th, 17th century were interested with the problem of the legitimacy of the state and the authority of the government, was Bellarmine and Suarez, two Jesuits, an Italian and a Spanish. And they propose a theory which respects at the same time the divine origin of the authority, and at the same time also the responsibility of the people. So they try to, you know, they say a country is made not by a king, it's made by the citizen. Okay? So we call that the theory of popular consent. In fact, it is the foundation of real democracy. The real democracy, at the Christian point of view, is not far coming from Hobbes and Rousseau, is more coming from Saint Robert Bellarmine and Suarez. So what they say the state is a natural society. So first, the state is based on nature. So if they say that, who is the author of nature? God. Finally, they refer to God. That is important, because if they refer to God, the authority of the state is coming from God and not from the people. That is very, very important. The distinction is very important. If the authority is coming from the people, so the people make the right. They decide what is just and unjust, you know. If the authority comes from God, through the people, that is different. I mean, the people, even if they give to the king or to the president their freedom, they accept to obey, they do that because they receive the power to do that from God. That is the difference. And those who set up a government, we say, the people, in fact, they are, they participate in the government, giving, and they are the foundation of the authority of the king, of the president, of the government. But that power they have is not from themselves, it is from nature, it is from God. But Rousseau, Hobbes, and today in our society, we don't accept that. We say the power comes from the people. From the people. So the people is the reason why we can decide, for example, what happened in the United States here, abortion is legal, okay? That is the will of, is not coming from God. Even if we say under God, what kind of God? Don't forget, never forget that, okay? The state is natural society, okay. Men are obliged from to form a state. In fact, by nature, man is a social animal, and by nature, man has the obligation to organize a state, to organize a government. So the origin is from nature, you know, always from nature. So the authority comes from God. And the people are the one who select the ruler. So the ruler is not selected by the prophet, it is by the people, but God immediately confers authority on the whole people civilly united. You know, Rousseau will speak about the general will. Bellarmine and Suarez, they say, yes, but that will comes from the power given by God. That is the difference. There is something common, but the source of right is different. One comes from man alone, the other comes from man because of his nature given by God. Therefore, the power he has to participate in the direction of the country, we call it now democracy, is given by God, and not by his own will. That is big, that makes a total difference between two kinds of democracy. If we recognize the democracy comes from the fact man is a natural, socially natural, he has the power given by God to live together, to organize that. Finally, always we refer to God, author of nature, or the power given to the, it is only from the people. It is uniquely from their own will, you know. Now, the title of the right. So for them, for Bellarmine, it is the consent of the people. Both, but you know, the Hobbes said the same thing. Rousseau says the same thing. But the difference is, in the case of Rousseau, in the case of Hobbes, it is uniquely the will of man. In the case of Bellarmine, in the case of Suarez, in the Christian, it is the will of man, but that will of man is given by God, and therefore the will of man, when he takes a decision, must respect nature, must respect the will of God. That is different. But both are democracy. Both are the will of man, but unique will of man, or the will of man given, the power given by God. And finally, you have another theory we call patriarchal theory. It is proposed especially by Joseph de Maistre. Joseph de Maistre is a French author, French politician, and political philosopher, and writer in the 19th century after French Revolution. So French Revolution, you will change a lot in Europe. For many countries before French Revolution, the king was right, a divine right. After that, they were not on divine right, because now the modern monarchy don't say that God, the king is by divine right. And the one who broke that was Napoleon. Napoleon is funny. Napoleon, he fought against the king. He was a soldier, he was a little military and officer. And after that, when he realized that we cannot run a country with anarchy. So he took the power. And he declared himself emperor, not king, emperor. In fact, it was the same thing as a king, emperor. And when he was crowned by Pius VII, he did not. When the Pope he was ready to put the crown on his head. What did he do?
He used his hand.
He put himself. He said, "I am the boss." It's no more. It is no more from the divine right. It is from the human right. It is my business now. You know. And after that, many democracy did not recognize the absolute, but they are constitutional, like the democracy, like the kingdom in England. The king is a king by constitutional, and not by nature or by, of course, heredity continues, but it is by the situation is not the same as before. When the king is absolute, there is nobody to judge the king. But this absolute is a top, absolute solus, alone. But the French Revolution, they stopped that. They cut they shortened the king, and they began a new system. Yes, brother.
Father, it seems to me like the government in England is the one who ruled the country, but the queen or the king is just a figure, right?
Yeah. The
she
king
has no power or authority.
Yeah, she has a power of veto.
Yeah,
she has, like in Belgium,
no.
she uses very rarely. The king of Belgium used that. He used that against abortion a few years ago.
Yeah.
He used his veto to stop. No.
Yeah, but in the case of England, she should have.
She can, but it is the crown. If you want, the constitution is incarnate in the queen. So we don't have a president. And that is the Queen of England. She's also the Queen of Canada. She's the Queen of Australia. She is the Queen of the Commonwealth. Interesting. And that is, Spain, after Franco, what they decide, they have a referendum and people voted to come back to have a king. Because the advantage of a king is to stability. The government can be dissolved, but the legitimacy of the government continues to exist continually. And that saved Spain from a civil war in 1960-65. They were on the brink of civil war, and the king was able to save the situation. So in England, it's very powerful. Of course, we say the government run the business, and the king is reigning. The queen is reigning. But it is more than only a fiction. It is a powerful reality, a peaceful reality as well. You have to live in that system. Of course, many people have difficulty to understand that. You see, you Canadian, you have a queen, you are very moron, retarded mentally. No, it is a very great economy. How it costs to you to elect a president every 4 years? Billions of dollars would be nothing. You have only a prime minister, and the prime minister, the government can change. We can have election. Stability. And England was very stable since the Middle Age, very stable because of that. It is another system. We say that in the text of the Pope, there is the church privileges no system. A system is a mean. A government is a mean. The way of running. Every congregation has a different rule, no? So every country can have a different rule of governing the country. So what is the difference between the power of king coming from God and that theory of Joseph de Maistre or patriarchal theory? It is the king is, for the Maistre, is king independently of the consent of the people. The people has nothing to do. But for Bellarmine, the people has something to do. And God gave them the power, at least tacit, at least implicit. And when they are not satisfied by what they do, like they did even in England a certain time, they changed the king. They say, no, we don't want to have that king. Okay, so, well, it's not necessary for salvation to know that. But it is interesting to know that not every government has the same structure. And I think the big mistake we are doing now in our Western world, we try to impose to other culture our way of governing. For me, it's a big, big, big mistake. It is the source of the problem is there. We want to install democracy with the Taliban. Hey, they live in tribes. And you want to install democracy? They will play the game to have your gun, to have your bomb, after that, and get out. So, yes, the way of running a people is chosen by the people. So we cannot impose democracy to everyone. For me, it's a big, big mistake. It's the source of the problem is there. We wanted to impose democracy to Iraq, and now we pay for that. Democracy is not a product we can export. Try to export that to China. They export that produce more than we can export our product. You know? Okay. Be careful. Democracy is not a dogma of faith. Otherwise, if democracy is the perfect system, the church are the worst system.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church. If you say democracy is the best, the church is the worst. Why? The church is a theocracy.
Theocracy.
We run the business, the Pope, in the name of God, of Jesus. It functions very well, no? And who elect a Pope? All the people in the world? No, only a little group of old men with a red cap. 1 billion people are a chief, a king, elected by only 150 people. And it functioned very well. That means democracy is not necessarily the best system. Sometimes, for a country, a good king, like Saint Louis of France, is much better than democracy. But sometimes democracy is much better than a tyrant. I agree with you. So, you know, the text of if you read offensively here, the compendium, the Pope insists on that. There is no particular system of government. What is the form of government the best is the government that allows people to attain their end on earth, to be fed, to be happy, and also the end after death, eternal destiny. That is the criterion of a system. He can be a king, he can be a good tyrant, because not every tyrant is bad. In the history, you have good tyrants. In fact, we call them tyrants, but they were king. It can be a president, it can be a democracy. You know? But the problem of democracy, since John Locke, you remember John Locke? For John Locke, democracy is based on what? On tolerance. Of course, tolerance. There is no democracy without tolerance. But if you accept tolerance, can you accept a unique magisterium? So the consequence of that is what? Relativism. I am inclined to say that the democracy based on the idea of tolerance, like John Locke, is condemned to relativism. And if you look at the church, the first criterion for any society is the truth. And the truth is not many. 5 plus 2 equals 7. Of course, that is mathematics. But you know, a murder is a murder, and adultery is adultery. Killing a baby is killing a baby. It's a mad person. But by tolerance, you are okay, I am okay, but nothing functions well. That is the vice of the theory of democracy based on tolerance, based on the human will. If we have a democracy based on natural law, there will be an agreement between the people in gap of natural law. And that is not absolute tolerance. We don't tolerate but what is not that true. We don't tolerate injustice, you know. We don't tolerate that all human rights are not respected. Well, you can discuss between you about what is the best system, huh? But there is no perfect system. Even the Catholic Church is not a perfect system. Why? The Pope, no, he was elected to make a reform in the system. It was his mission. Huh? Because everywhere there is human being, everywhere there is, or we say, homerie in French, huh? There is something not always perfect. Yes, brother?
Father, you made a very powerful point regarding the people, electing their leaders in their own way that is suitable for their own society. And most often you discover that the Western world tries to apply the mightiest power, trying to impose democracy in other countries. And throughout the history, I've discovered it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And what surprises me is that I don't know, even though they realize that it doesn't work, they still, continue to push it. Just like when you use Libya as an example, where Muammar Gaddafi was a leader for over 40 years, even though he's a kind of a tough guy, but the country was in a very stable condition. You will never move out of the country and see a Libyan in another country. The France and the other international communities step in and destroy the system of government there, and the country is in chaos, and other countries.
Well, don't forget the thing. There is we should look at two criteria, two causes. First, ideology. Ideology is very powerful. Look at Marxism, it's based on ideology. And the second is economy, money, interest.
Yes.
I remember I watched a program on television 10 years ago when it was the war in Iraq. And there was a scholar and teacher from Harvard. And one of the teachers says, the fundamental reason of the war in Iraq is oil. Before the Chinese take the control of oil, we want to control that. It is all the time. Many wars in the past, the war between Egypt and Mesopotamia, it was for the control of food, of product, Most of the time, war are economic reasons. And another good reason, those who produce arms, it is very rich, it is very good source of money for them, So, what saved, it's interesting, what saved United States and Canada from the crisis, the 1929 to 1939? The war. It's sad to say that, but the war saved our economy. Why? Because we were obliged to produce. Producing, we make people working. And we make money, and we improve our industry. And after that, we pass from an agriculture kind of people to industrial culture. That 1945 is the change. The war was changed the history of the world and the Western world. Unfortunately, I will say. It was very fast. Changed very, very fast. Okay, that is a sign that he does not sleep. But I agree with you. I live in Africa, I know that is true. For example, President Bongo of Gabon, President Bongo of Gabon, he said to his citizens, vote for me 102%. Vote for me 102. Vote for me 100. And when they are elected to 95%, 98%, is it democracy? And we say, oh, democratic system. That is a fake. So that is important, not to export, not to impose. It's the same in spirituality. If I have a great devotion to Mary, I cannot impose that to everyone. Another has a great devotion to Saint Joseph, he cannot impose that to everyone. Everyone must respect his own spirituality, his own tendency, his own... Sometimes we have... the Pope, he spoke recently on Sunday. It was the week of ecumenism. He was with the Patriarch of Constantinople, representative of the Eastern Church. He was with the representative of the Bishop of Canterbury. He says we must respect others and not to exercise proselytism. In fact, we exercise proselytism in politics. Because why? Because we have economic interest. We have economic interest. If we can manipulate, if we can make a man elected, we can manipulate him. It is exactly what happened with Mobutu in Zaire.
Yep.
Exactly what happened with Mobutu. The United States, excuse me, but it's the story. The CIA, in fact CIA, suppressed Limbumba because he was a socialist. And they put a man, he was a simple officer, he became a general, he became the president of the country. And when Mobutu died, his personal wealth was the equivalent of the national debt. We call that democracy. It was put there by the United States. That is clear. Why? Because they have a lot of interest. The Congo is excessively rich in many, many things. Yes, for example, the Chinese are fighting to go there because they possess some product essential for the computers. You know, we must know those things. It's not known in your paper. They never speak about that. You are not well informed. The proof of that, what newspaper and what TV station they spoke about the march pro-life in Washington. Complete silence. So we don't speak about that. You know? They prove we are not free. We are censored not by the government. We are censored by economic power. Yeah. We will see the different kind of government. Okay, now the popular concept, the theory of Saint Robert Bellarmine, that seems the closest to us. The theory which is fit best with our values as Christians. Anyway, even if the government fell down, the authority continues. Why? Because the authority is not in the government, the authority is in the people. So you understand why the Queen of England is so important, because she incarnates the authority of the people. Her title is the defender of the people against the law. That is history. So the authority, so even if there is a revolution, the authority is not in the person, it is in the people. That is the theory of Bellarmine. And that is by the will of God, and not by their own will. Okay? So only people can decide to change their form of government. If they have in front of a tyrant unjust, they can use revolution to change the situation by the will of the people. But be careful, the will of the people given from God according to human nature. Jefferson says, from the people, for the people, they what? Only, not, it does not refer to eternal law, it does not refer to natural law. Anyway, he was a deist. As a deist, he cannot refer to a revelation. Yes, he was Freemason. The majority of the founders of the country were Freemason. Don't forget that. So he studied philosophy of God, and the difference between theist and deist. They were deists. Okay, I continue. So by the very nature, intrinsically, all government must be for the people, since its purpose is the common good, for the people. But also, it must be for the people, but of the people. For and of the people. The mean is taken from the people and work with the people. In fact, the government is not apart the people. It is the people running, directing the the business. But it cannot be everyone in Washington, so they delegate some people to do that in their name. Okay? But the difference between Rousseau and Hobbes on one side, Bellarmine and Suarez on the other side, it's clear. It is the will of the people, but one is the will of people. That right is given by God. Always refer to natural law. Huh? The other, they don't refer to natural law. So the government should be by the people. In fact, it is true, when we obey the government, we obey our own will, because we elected them there. You know, sister and brother and community, huh? When you elect a superior, don't forget, when the superior gives you an order, it is your will. We forget that sometimes. Huh? If it's elected, you elect someone and you put in that person a kind of will. And when she or he asks you to do something you don't like, don't forget, it is you. Okay. The mode of government. We have many modes of government. You have the republic. The republic. Republic. The thing which is for all. Publica. Re means thing. So the supreme power resides in a body of citizens entitled to vote. So the people vote, elect a body of those who will direct the country, and it is exercised by elected official and representative. Well, it is the kind of system we have here. It is a republic. Be careful. Not every democracy is a republic. We cannot make a republic and democracy are one, are the same. No. For example, England is a democracy. It's not a republic. Canada is a democracy. It's not a republic. Belgium is a democracy. It's not a republic. That means the mode of government is not the same. But they are democratic. That means the people can vote, can influence, can choose their representing. Okay? You have the democracy. In fact, there is a difference between a republic and democracy. And every republic should be democratic, but not every democracy is a republic. Okay? What is the characteristic of democracy? It is the government by the people. And now there is two, yeah, I heard that just before, two, current. Those who say that power comes from God, those say the power comes only from man. Okay? We have also another kind of, we call it plutocracy. Plutocracy is the government by the rich. Pluto means something rich. So the rich, I give you an example. When I was young, up to 1960 in my country, only the owner of a house, the owner of a house, had the right to vote for a school administration. Only the owner. So my father has 9 children. He was not allowed to vote. But the owner of the house have maybe 1 child or no child, he was allowed to vote. That we call that plutocracy, a kind of, the rich run the business. But sometimes I criticize the system, our Western country. In fact, who is able to go, can a simple teacher of university or high school can become a senator? Theoretically, yes. But practically, what is the first condition to present to an election?
Money.
Money. Accumulate money. We see that now, we listen to that on television. And Hillary Clinton must accumulate money to prepare his campaign. You know? That is plutocracy. And I saw a movie on PBS last year, Park Avenue. The title is Park Avenue. Park Avenue is the richest, in New York, is the richest street in the whole world. It is the most intensive density of billionaire, not millionaire, billionaire. And the movie is based on that. And they interview them one by one. you know. And one sense is very rich. He said, you know, I give the same amount of money to both parties. So I am sure they will do what I want. And they give proof of that. They influence some laws. If you are not rich, can you have a good power? How AARP or those organizations, for example, Defense for Light, do you need money? Lobbyists, who are lobbyists? Those who work for big company. And they influence, they give money. That is the vice of democracy. And that is the power of the rich, the power of the wealthy. For monarchy, we know that, only by one, monos, a king. You can have a monarchy by absolute will, power, and monarchy, which is a constitutional monarchy, like Belgium, like the Netherlands, majority now, Spain, all those monarchy in Europe, for example, they are constitutional. Okay. We have also aristocracy. Aristos in Greek means the best. The best. And it was the idea of Plato. Plato, he said the best system is aristocracy. The best, run by the best. But who are the best in the society according to Plato? Philosopher, of course. Remember what I told you? The head, the heart, and the kidneys. Philosopher, soldier, and the rest. Emotion. He said, you know, the best is aristocracy because he was against democracy. He said, demos, the people, cannot run the business. Only the wise men, the learned and the wise men, the virtuous men can run the business. You have another system we call also timocracy. Well, it is what I told that just before. Timocracy, it is a system based on wealth. In fact, it's not far from plutocracy. It is the system where only those who possess have the right to run the business. In fact, it is in England the reason why today we have the Chamber of the Lords. The Lords, in fact, at the origin, were the landlords. So there was the king, and there were two chambers, the Lords and the representative of the people. You know? And the Lord were those who possess. And that is the origin of the Senate. The Senate its origin is the Lord. But when they opened the Senate in the United States, they were elected. In Canada, they are not elected. They are nominated by the government. Even a hockey player can become a senator. Even a singer can become a senator. Yes. Because the wisdom is not only in the few ones, only on those who possess money. The wisdom can be everywhere. No? It's surprising to see that the owner of a Montreal Canadian was elected. He was a senator, and a great singer, Catholic singer, Lapointe, was a senator. Because why we choose only people who have money? So to represent the people, we may have people from everywhere. From everywhere. Okay. That is, we have also oligarchy. That means the government are only a little group. In fact, country like communist country, like China, is a kind of oligarchy. It's run only by the Communist Party. In Russia, the Communist Party was about only 2% of the population. But recently I read an article, you know, in last week in Switzerland there was a meeting, Davos. Every year in Davos, they have a meeting of the richest people in the world. They meet in Davos, in Switzerland. And they said that I think it's 86, I'm not sure, 82 or 86, families control about 46% of the world economy. That means 86 families, not countries, families control almost the half of the world economy. Now that is the reality. In the United States, here, one person controls almost half of the economy of the United States. One person. We call that democracy. You know, when Mr. Buffett put his vote in the box, of course it's a piece of paper, but his vote is much heavier than your vote. That is the vice of our democracy. Our democracy is run by money, by interest. And we are specialists in interest because lobbyists, and they are there to all the time to fight for the interests of big companies. And finally, you have tyranny, you know, the one who controls everything. Okay. So the term of government, well, Plato, I told that to you, was not for democracy. Even Aristotle. Aristotle, he says there are three perversions of government: tyranny, oligarchy, and democracy. Very tough, huh? It was the conception of the Greek. Okay, we say, oh, Athens was the mother of democracy. Huh? We say the Greek was the democrat. In fact, who were able to be free in Greece at that time? Only a little part of the population. The majority were either slaves or only workers. They have no power at all. So when we speak about democracy in Greek, it is the oligarchy. It is the government by only a little one. And you know, when Aristotle criticized, you know what he speaks about. Huh? It's not the same thing as, we use the same, that is a good example of equivocation. Huh? Equivocal. The term democracy is equivocal. If you use the term democracy in the time of the Greek, and democracy in the time of Jefferson is not the same thing. The same word, not the same content. Okay? So we understand why Plato and Aristotle, both the greatest philosophers, were opposed to democracy. In fact, they were opposed to oligarchy, to the control by someone, plutocracy, the control by the rich. They were aware that democracy was not the real reality. Only a few they took benefit of that. All the rest did not benefit of that. Okay. So what is the criterion for the good government? Well, if you read the text of the agenda, very good, especially the two first, 97, 98. At least that. If you don't have time to read at least 97, 98, and 99, of course. They give you the following. First, the way a government functions is more important than the way it is constituted. What is important is not it is a democracy or a kingdom or no, it is the way, the manner. In fact, a government is only a means. And the proof of that, the government can change, but the state continues. So the government is a tool, is not an end. Is a tool for the common good. The government is a means, is a tool to allow citizens to share in the common good. That is the temporal welfare. And also, not only the temporal, because the temporal welfare, the temporal good life, material good life, is to prepare you for another life. We are not eternal on earth. So that is, it is what the church says. We judge the value of a government when it respects the human person, when it respects the end of the human person on earth, but also after. So is it the democracy the best government? We already discussed about that. It can be relatively best, but best not for everyone, best for a certain part of people. Don't forget that. Democracy, it can be excellent for you, it can be very bad for Pakistan or for Afghanistan. Again, it was a huge mistake to introduce democracy. Huge, impossible. I lived in Cameroon 20 years. Actually, it's a democracy. But when the people vote 95% for the government, you know, is it a democracy? Usually democracy, huh? It's balance, huh? Yeah. And we realize that the rich become more and more rich, richer and richer, and the people don't take benefit of that, you know. It's the same in Peru, huh? The copper passed under my nose every day when I was there. The railway was just there, close to my room. But Peruvians, they see copper, pure copper, passing under their nose, and what they have. No? Democracy. Now, democracy is good, relatively good. Huh? Don't forget, the criterion is how the government, as a mean, assure the common good of the people. And that common good is not only temporal, that common good is also spiritual. We are not only an animal who eats, we are a human being with an eternal destiny. Huh? So the structure of a government can be any kind of structure. In the time of St. Louis, it was the best time in the history of France under the king. A time of peace, a time people, you know, he was a good king. He was very strict. St. Louis was very strict. He controlled the people who were unjust, even those who were very high in the government. You know? So we cannot attach the value of a government to its form. It is to the way it leads people to their and to their destiny. Okay. Now we can have. It's interesting to see. I will give you next class some document. Unfortunately, I forgot to print like that here, to have a synthesis of what I'm telling you this morning. We can distinguish in the government those who are totally, the ideal is to have no government at all. No government at all. That means the people were able to live together without any rule, any government. We call that anarchy. No. It was the dream of Marx and of Stalin. Lenin. The real paradise will be a country without any government. Everyone will do what he wants. You know. That is a pure utopia. At the extreme, you have totalitarianism. Totalitarian. They want to control everything. Not only to control economy, but to control your fate, to control the number of children you will have. A good example of that is North Korea. North Korea is almost that. Almost that. They want to control everything. And between, you have here government. You remember when we speak about centrifugal. When you tell something like that, the people are inclined to be projected. You see, centrifugal. So some governments are centrifugal. That means we don't want a center. We don't want a center. The best is the least government. A government only to protect the interest of economy, but nothing between the government, yes, and the individual. So everything is for the individual, the interest of the individual. Government is only a police to control the good organization, protection. That is the theory we see in capitalism. This is capitalism. The ideal is the less. The best government is the one that intervenes the less. Here is the contrary. It is centipede, like a spiral. When you take in your sink, you fill with water, you open. What happens? That means everything is centralized. Centralization of things, control. That is paternalism or socialism, communism is here. So that is another tendency. So the tendency to go to our individual, or here to send everything in the government. Government control more and more everything. Not necessarily everything, but the most. Okay? And now you have here all the possibilities. You know, there is no pure capitalist country. There is no pure socialist country. Socialism is like the rainbow. Capitalism is like the rainbow. But we have to know the philosophy. We spent 3 hours for that, and 3 hours for that. And finally, the middle, we call the third way. Or the way of subsidiarity. We accept there must be a government, and then the government is for the good of the person, the individual, the person. So the government is at the service, and it must not intervene on the. For example, the government is here, and the people is here. But there are many organizations, for example, the Red Cross, Knight of Columbus, you know, Catholic school, and they must act as long as an intermediary organization functions well. We should protect it. That is the way of subsidiarity, and we call that also personalism. That means the first reality is not the state. The first reality is not the individual. The first reality is the human person. That is the position of the church, and we spend also 3 hours for that. Okay? The government, the mode of government. So the 5 possible way of governing. Bon. You know, the extreme, we say virtue is in the middle. Anarchy is a utopia. It's impossible. It's against common sense. As soon as you have 2 persons to live together in the same room, you must have a certain rule. No? If you are a university or a Cameroon, all my civilians were 2 by room. So they must say, okay, at 10 we go bed. I want to make music. No, I want to study philosophy. You have to put some rule, no? No, sister, in your convent, and brother, it is impossible. That is impossible. Here, that is the worst. Where there is, they try to suppress any kind of freedom. In fact, they suppress the humanity. There is no more person. They are only individual. And now you have 2 here, going to the extreme to the middle. So we have here the position of liberalism, capitalism. We will see that. They prefer what is good, what is not good. They don't want to study that with you. We have the time to study that. The same here, socialism. You know, not everything is false. Not everything is bad. You must know that, no? There is nothing black and white in politics, in economy. So we will see the good thing and the bad thing. We will see the good things and the bad thing. And finally, we propose a system of government which respects the human person. Respecting the human person, they refer to the natural law and to, finally, to eternal law, you know. And it's interesting here, no God, here, no God, here, maybe some part of God, here, some part of God, but here, God. Because capitalism, we will see capitalism is materialist. Of course, they endure. On Sunday, you can go to the temple, or during the week, you know, don't speak about God. No? Here, no. But you know, we can tolerate. And finally here, we respect that person. Okay? That is a little bit simplified, but we have here we can summarize all the way of governing a country in that 5 categories. Okay? We speak about socialism, we can speak about also paternalism. For example, at the time of Louis XIV in France, it was a kind of paternalism. That means the state was controlling almost everything, but there was a part of personal. We can add your little feel. You can go to church, pray, but the economy was controlled by Colbert. Colbert was the intendant of France. He was the right hand of Louis XIV. So that the control, in fact, capitalism fought against Colbertism, about the taxes. When a thing passed from Massachusetts to Connecticut before 1776, they have to pay a tax. You know that, huh? They were custom between every state. So it was the same in France. There were 12 regions, and to pass from one region to the other, you have to pay. And the money was going to the king, you know. That was Colbertism. So now, the best we propose would be the principle of subsidiarity. Subsidium in Latin means help. Help. To give some subside, what is that? Money. We give money for what? To help. That means that system is based on the respect of personal initiative. Of course, you will say, here also, capitalism is personal initiative. But control, that's the difference. There is always a kind of control of the state. Why? Because we are selfish. Greed is a reality. Selfishness is a reality. And if there is no control, there will be the victory of selfishness and non-honesty. Honest. You know? It's funny, 20 years ago, there was a famous movie, Godfather. You saw that? And people liked that so much, they had Godfather 1, Godfather 2, you know? But what is that? It's the glorification of the mafia. And the mafia is a vice of here. All means are good to make money, to control money, you know? It's interesting that it was. People admired them and they succeeded, you know? Al Capone in Chicago, you know? What is the center of all reality on earth? The human person. It's not economy. The government must know the common good is not the common good of big company, it's the common good of the human person, the citizen. And that is here. Here there is a control. It is impossible to have a justice without a control of economy. And the ideal of no control finally will lead to theoretically to anarchy. And that is the difference between capitalism and subsidiarity we proposed by the church. And if you read the text of the Pope in the agenda, social agenda, you will see how the Pope insists all the time, freedom of market, freedom of property, yes, it's a right. We must be free. We must possess, we see that soon when we study property, but with control. Otherwise, what happens? The richer will become, the richest will become richer, and the poor will become poorer. And that is the situation in many countries. Huh? Think about, I will finish by that. Before the crisis in 2008, 2008, there was only 37 million Americans, they live with stamps. 37. After the crisis, there were 50 million. In the richest country in the world, in the most powerful country in the world. It should, for a Catholic, for a Christian, make a big question. Can we accept that? What are the vices of the system? My role as a teacher of social ethics is not, I'm not an economist, I'm not a politician, I am a philosopher asking you to reflect on the fundamental moral value. Why? Can we accept that in a democratic country who wants to export its model, that still today almost 50 million people live with stamps? Okay, you will answer that when you will be a priest. Because, you know, for me, one of the goals of the class of philosophy, ethics, social ethics, is to prepare you to work for social justice. And this is the part of the message of the church, huh? of the gospel. Matthew 25, don't forget. Huh? Okay, I finished my homily here.